Hey, this is Grant of Grant's Media Menagerie, coming to you today to talk to you about Doctor Who again. And this time I'll be talking to you about the second episode, and that is called The Daleks, which it's better than I remember it the last time I saw it. I saw it a couple years back when I was trying to watch all of the show at once. I think it was like my first attempt at watching it. I tried watching it 3 times and then succeeded during like October of COVID years. So I like watched all of it at once between October and December of 2020. And it's better than I remember it this time. I don't know if it's like the second or the third time that I've seen it, but it is definitely better. This is a kind of an important episode because, well, the first one set up this great high concept of a guy who travels through time and space in this very age-appropriate vehicle, the TARDIS, a police box. So very of its time thing. That's a very unique idea, but it was missing something. And I think that the Daleks was where you figured out what that thing was, and that's an iconic voice. There was, with this first episode, a unique concept of time travel, but not the sense that they actually had anything important to say. Here, they have something important to say, and in this case, what the Daleks is about is, among other things, it's about the buildup of nuclear arms during this time, kind of our tendency towards self-destruction, with the Daleks being kind of the end result of destroy anything that's unlike you, as well as a condemnation of fascism, because the Daleks are clearly Nazis. And I mean, that's obvious even in this episode, long before they firmly establish it with like the military garb, the way of talking that they would establish 11 years later in the Genesis of the Daleks episode. Also a very good episode. But here, everything about these monsters is established, from their environment, how these characters walk, how these characters talk, is all distinctly Nazi-esque, but in a sci-fi fashion. They land on this planet, and it's very desolate. First of all, nothing's living, and even the things that seem to have been living were things made of metal. So even if it's life, it's a completely alien form of life. And the Doctor just wants to investigate it, and he notices this huge, beautiful city, but completely cold, no sense of life. And that hints at what the Daleks are best at. They're best at engineering, but there's no sense that there was ever a living thing there, showing kind of the cold mentality that the Nazis were kind of going towards. So this is showing, okay, the Nazis had a dream. This is the end result of their dream. You have beautiful structures, but no life, no organisms, no nurturing, nothing innately human or worth surviving. And the Doctor is still kind of a curmudgeon-y character at this point. He's not yet the man who's going to defend the universe and the downtrodden. He is clearly just a man who wants to explore. And that's both what allows us to see this world and what gets him in trouble. Because he just wants to explore, but they'd all want to get back home or just get back into the TARDIS. And he actually sabotages his own ship so that they can just look around. He pretends at first to sabotage his own ship, but then the Daleks actually take the piece that he took out. So he does end up sabotaging his own ship. And, wow, there's just, I mean, this is a 7-episode story, so this is just a really, really rich episode. There's almost too much to talk about, but I'll try. Once they have observed the city, once they've seen the Daleks, at that point, one, the Doctor comes clean and they have to deal with the fallout of just their trust being broken like that. Two, when they eventually come across other people besides the Daleks here, that becomes an opportunity for examining, again, the Nazi propaganda that is informing how the Daleks act. Because with their counterparts, the Thals, which I wish they kind of would come up with a better name, because they eventually came up with a better name for the Daleks, but anyway. With the Thals, you have this idea of, okay, these are the Aryan type of people that the Nazis were hoping that everyone would become if their eugenics programs actually came to fruition, which thankfully they did not. But they're showing, yeah, there's a difference between what these monsters say they want and what they actually want. Because the Thals are the representation of what they actually wanted. Beautiful creatures with intelligence and compassion. And the Nazis, i.e. the Daleks, are the exact opposite. They hate everything that is not like them. They're just inhuman monsters. And it's a fascinating dialogue between these two, because the Daleks, right from the beginning, they're trying to kill these Thals. And the Thals, being as highly evolved as the Daleks, I think, I once thought they themselves would be, the Thals can't imagine fighting again. They have a long history of being warriors in their past, but they're so unused to warfare that they will just leave their homes immediately. They will have no connection to any particular land. They are complete nomads, which is it's a far cry from what they used to be. And part of the story is just them trying to get back some of that fighting spirit without it being bloodthirsty. Because as you'd figure out with these characters, again, in Genesis of the Daleks, is, yeah, they were bloodthirsty. They were just as bloodthirsty as the Daleks. But here, they've gone completely in the opposite direction. So that's kind of a fascinating idea of, okay, you've come to be as compassionate as you should be. But in that, you've lost the edge that will keep you alive. You need to have that balance. And that is explored through, I believe, 3 characters called Temesis, Aladon, and I want to say the third guy's name is Ganatus, but I can't be sure on that one. They all give them very, very epic, very Roman names to epitomize how they're almost like legendary characters. And these characters, one, he's kind of realizing, yeah, this is my preferred way of life, this pacifism, but it's just not going to work. We can't survive. We'll just keep being uprooted from any land that we want to make home by someone who's stronger or more willing to fight. And they realize, yeah, even in our weak moments, we're going to fight. We might as well have this be an aimed impulse. With Temesis, that was Aladon, who I just mentioned. With Temesis, you have a different story. You have a guy who is very much stuck in his old ways. He's the leader before Aladon becomes the leader, and he dies for it, because he just tries to make peace with these Daleks when they're going to have none of it. I mean, peace is only as good as when both parties want it. And Ganatus, he kind of represents the one who's recognizing you need to change, seems to be wanting to change, but is just firmly stuck in his old ways. And by the end, spoiler alert for something that came out in December of 1963, he dies, but he ends up helping the rest of the TARDIS crew, so he at least dies in a somewhat noble way. And what else is there to talk about in this? I guess some of the odder things are some of the things that they would change. Like with the Daleks in this episode, they make the illusion that they could only live on this metal surface that was part of the city because the machines that they're in. Because understand, those metal casings, that's not them. That's like a apparatus that they have to move around in because they've mutated that badly. And the apparatus is only able to move on metal surfaces because of the static electricity. Now that's something they would have to change eventually, because when they wanted to bring back these characters, well, they figured out, yeah, we could go back to an earlier point in their timeline, but we also have to be able to have them exist in a world where there is other things than metal. They have to be able to move on the ground without having to worry about that plot continuity. Thankfully, they draw enough attention to it here, but you can buy that it was something that was not always a part of how the Daleks operated. It's kind of fascinating seeing how you know that the Daleks are going to appear in pretty much every generation of the Doctor, but you're kind of seeing their end here. So it's like you're already seeing the final defeat of these creatures before you've seen this long journey he's had with them. That's kind of fascinating. And I think, honestly, that's about it. That's about all of the philosophical complexity that they have. It's a good story, but that's all I can really remember. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you for watching this, and please like and subscribe, and tell me if you'd want any more of these videos, or videos of any particular show, TV, or movie, and take care.